Hey all, Brent here with an anime primer on a show you should all know about, Robotech. Very influential in American anime, and that's why I'm talking about it now. It got its start, and this is really the interesting thing, is how it all came about. I think it was Matchbox originally basically licensed a bunch of model kits from Japan in the early 80s. And of course, back then, nobody in America really knew what was going on in Japan, so they figured they could just license these model kits and bring them on over here and sell them. But they knew that if it was just a random model kit sitting on a shelf somewhere, kids weren't necessarily going to buy them. So they also licensed the 3 anime series that these model kits were from, all transforming giant robot type model kits. So, and they basically took those licenses to a video production company called Harmony Gold and dumped these 3 anime series on them and said, make this into one show. We've come up with a title for our production line, calling it Robotech, which I think is a pretty cool name. So make a show called Robotech out of these 3 completely unrelated anime series. Have fun. But 85 episodes, and you have 8 months before they have to air on television. So Harmony Gold sort of took a deep breath and sat down and discovered they had some real treasures. Fortunately, one of these anime series was Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. Huge, very influential anime in Japan. It came out a couple of years after original Mobile Suit Gundam, which kind of redefined mecha anime, and kind of mecha in general, anime in general. And Macross sort of pushed it to the next level visually. And the other series had their own pretty cool things going on as well. The problem is there was some material in there that just wasn't going to fly on American television. Certainly not aimed at the younger demographic they were going for, preteens, some tweens, that kind of stuff. So they had to do some serious work on this. Now, the work they had to do is the subject of much controversy. So I'm going to spend some time talking about what that actually involved. So you had 3 series: Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mospeda. Each one of these is basically aliens invade and humans fight them off in giant robot transforming suits. Now, basically the way they worked it out is that in the first show, these Zentradi show up, and they decided they'd rework it so that the Zentradi say that they're coming. They were sent by the aliens from the second show, which they call the Masters. And then after the Zentradi are defeated, in the second show, the Masters show up, and they say that they're looking for more energy because they're being pursued by these aliens called the Invid, which are sort of invading. And after the Masters are defeating, the Invid show up and do nasty stuff. So basically, the way they worked this in is they took incidental dialogue and worked in references to these other elements. So for example, if a Zentradi said, "We must defeat these Micronians or there will be dire consequences," that would get changed to, "We must defeat these Micronians or the Masters will be displeased." You're not really losing anything by losing that little bit of, there will be dire consequences. They were careful to choose lines of dialogue that were basically just kind of throwaway stuff. So that got pulled in. There was also some content that, like I said, was not going to work on American television. Graphic violence, and by graphic violence I mean while a ship was exploding, you'd cut inside to watch the pilot explode in fire and burning flesh and stuff flying at you. This was not going to air on at 4 p.m. on a weekday afternoon to kids. There's also some nudity, so that wasn't going to fly either. So that stuff got edited out. It should also be pointed out, and this is important, Japanese television, a half-hour Japanese TV series, TV episode is 24 minutes long with commercials. An American television half-hour episode is 22 minutes with commercials. So they had to cut out 2 minutes. That's why Robotech has a different opening and ending credit sequence. They made their own opening and ending credit sequence because that's shorter than the opening and ending credit sequence on the original one, which cuts out some time. FYI, this is why Toonami would redo the opening and ending credit sequences, why they'd have their own. They just cut them out all together because that meant they wouldn't have to cut out stuff on the show itself. So Robotech redid the opening and ending credit sequence, cut out some of this violence. The middle show, Southern Cross, actually wasn't set on Earth originally. It was set on this other planet with 3 suns. I'm sorry, 3 moons. And so you'd occasionally cut up to a shot of the sky and you see 3 moons in it. Fortunately, that was about it. You know, there's an occasional shot of 3 moons in the sky. So they were able to just, you know, pull out those shots. And then wherever else they needed to cut out time, they would remove establishing shots. So a shot of space, then a shot of the SDF-1, then a shot of the bridge, then a shot of characters talking on the bridge. They'd cut out one of those establishing shots. And the other interesting thing, content-wise, was they'd remove, in the 3rd show, there's this sort of annoying kid character that's coming along, and she throws tantrums, which apparently are really funny in Japan, but got really old. So in cases where those could just be sort of cut out directly, you'd cut out to the girl going, nah! And then the other characters sort of roll their eyes, and we'd move on. A few of those got pulled out, as well as a few what they call Japanese cultural gestures. So in Japan, if you're embarrassed, you might go, you know, you've seen anime fans do that a lot. Those things, where they could be cleanly removed, were removed. Again, it's localization. This was aimed at 8-year-old boys and girls, actually. A lot of girls watched it. So there was an attempt made to, where it was clean, to pull out that stuff so it wouldn't confuse viewers. So why are they making this weird gesture? Did that mean something? No. That was basically it. How do I know this? Because the Robotech DVDs actually contain on them a clip tape of all of the shots that they removed for Robotech. And I watched it all the way through. And that's what they edited. So in the sense of, you know, completely butchering the show, they made pretty minor edits, all things considered. It should also be pointed out that animation for kids at the time on American television was much more tame than what Robotech showed. Robotech kept in a lot of stuff that other shows wouldn't show and wouldn't put on television. Characters didn't die in G.I. Joe or Transformers. Never did. Macross, oh yeah, folks died all the time. So that was fairly impressive. And it should also be pointed out that this had a huge impact on anime in America. There was a convention just for Robotech. Yeah. There was also a lot of controversy because of these edits, and because some of the American fans could get their hands on original Macross and the original shows and compare and see that there were changes made. And a man by the name of Carl Maychek became kind of the whipping boy because he was kind of the public face of the company while Robotech was being released, and he kind of made it sound like Harmony Gold had produced all this stuff. He never really lied or anything, but he just sort of presented it as though this was a Harmony Gold production, and he very much minimized the Japanese studio's involvement in a lot of these interviews. And this raised the ire of a lot of fans. Maychek has since gone on to do some very good work in the anime industry, and I can talk about that in another video. But Maychek became this thing for American anime fans to rail against and complain about. And this, ironically, was a positive, in a sense, for the American anime fandom at the time. Because with Robotech's popularity, anime fandom in America really coalesced. And whereas before it was sort of these disconnected groups, now it really started forming into something big. And they now have Carl Maychek to write about, they write articles about him, and really foment a lot of discussion about him. And this gave them a cause, unedited anime. Now, all of a sudden, there was something for otaku to get together about and really say things about. Because there was sort of this Carl Maychek guy to talk about it. And it's kind of unfortunate because I don't think Maychek is as evil as folks lay him out to be. But, oh well. That's Robotech, in as quickly as I can make it. So if you have any other questions, things like that, post below. That's it. Thanks.